Hey everybody, it's me, Remy, the comic book poser, and today I'm here to welcome you to Enter the Poserverse. Today, I am interviewing one of the people that I think might have been my first physical or digital interview. First time somebody let me awkwardly send them questions in a Google Doc and go, please answer these for my website. And since that moment, we've had kind of a good rapport, chatting back and forth. You have heard me talk about Ashcan Comics Pub or ACP Studios a lot. You see me write about it all over the blog. You see me mention it on the YouTube channel all of the time. And the person who I'm interviewing today is actually the creator of the first title that I focused on a couple weeks ago on the Indie Comics You Should Invest in Thursday. So we'll see who it is after this.
When I'm flying in a plane or I'm on the street, there's a lot of famous people that I like to meet. They shake my hand and never ask my name, and they start asking questions that are always the same. Hey.
It is my pleasure, and with a great deal of excitement, I am welcoming Nate Lindley, the head honcho and one of the creative drivers of Ashcan Comics Pub into the stream.
Hi, how are you?
Hey Nate, how's it going?
It's going well. Thanks for that amazing introduction.
I gotta work on my announcer voice. You know, I would like to say that I sound like Eeyore who missed his antidepressants because it's 9 a.m., but this is just how I sound, and I know you teach as well, and I can't turn my voice up a little bit more for the Dog and Pony Show, so it's like, all right, kids, today we're gonna talk about Congress. I'm like a dumber version of Ben Stein from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But not about me. Let's talk about you. Can you tell us a little bit about who Nate Lindley, the man, is, and who Nate Lindley, wearing the hat of the creator and head honcho at ACP Studios, is?
So I'm Nate. Like I said, I'm a teacher outside of making comic books. And there's not really a whole lot of difference between me and what I do in ACP and outside, other than in ACP I'm drawing comics, and then in my normal day job I'm an art teacher, so I'm drawing there. So lots of time to draw and just hang out and get to make cool things. And honestly, being a teacher and being around the kids is a lot of motivation for me because they have a lot of energy. And then aside from that, Dustin and I both understand this, being a parent and trying to manage, being at home and trying to make comic books and staying up late to try and get things done. So that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
Nice. I'm interested to see how my school year is going to turn out because I coach debate. So we're learning how to do all of this digitally in a very, very short period. So I'm wondering, if you all start in some kind of virtual or hybrid presence, what teaching art will be like that way.
Well, last quarter we shut down, so had to scramble to figure out how to do that digitally. And, you can't send every supply possible home with kids, so things like ceramics, totally out the window. And
they can't go build their own kiln in the backyard.
I was encouraging them to go start digging up earth and find clay and, really getting down to the grassroots of it. So basically I was trying to leave a lot of open-ended projects, mostly towards the high school level. We were talking about upcycling and gave examples of upcycling, and then just kind of left it open-ended and let them create things, which actually in my art class I do that mostly anyways. I never really give them a prepackaged project and say step 1, step 2, step 3. I feel like that's a disservice in the art world. Instead, I try and leave an idea and let them interpret it into what they want to make on their own. So that's what I did last quarter. If we end up doing the entire school year online or something this year, then I'll probably be doing some drawing mixed in with those open-ended type of projects. Nice. But so far, our plan is to go back, and hopefully, we can go as long as possible.
We got kicked back. We start on the 8th of September now, and we start 100% digitally, and then we are phasing kids in every
Got it.
like 10 days if cases go down.
Gotcha.
All right, but enough about this boring school talk. And maybe I'll put my first chapters in a video and be like, if you don't want to listen to them talk about being teachers, push this button.
Right.
But I've heard you tell this story a couple of times before. The way that, I talk about every time I, mention ACP Studios is Stoney's interview on the Comic Book Club. I was very excited when I got to see yours there as well. But for people who may not have seen either of those interviews, can you give us the origin stories of Ashcan?
Yeah. So there was a spider bite, and no. Just kidding. Ashcan, it kind of happened on its own, honestly, and I was really thankful to be a part of that ride. And still, it's morphing constantly, and I'm still thankful to be a part of that ride. What happened was I started talking to a friend that I used to work with about making comic books. He encouraged me to make comics. I'd never really done it before, and basically I just got a piece of paper, started sketching. Well, then when the comic was done, I was real proud of it. Put it online, and then as soon as I got it online, started realizing everybody else, these barrages of, like, fund my comics, and I was just kind of discouraged by it. I was like, wow, this is kind of what it all boils down to. And pretty quickly, I just started looking for other people that were making indie comics, trying to socialize them a little bit. And then we made Old School Monsters, which was actually flash fiction. It wasn't comic books. But I basically just said, hey, if people want to write these little short stories and team up with an artist, I'll publish it. And that's really where it all kind of came together. We started getting all these different writers and artists working together. And since then, over 50 people have gone through Ashcan. So I guess really the origin story of it is just throwing out a crazy idea and not worrying about, how many people are going to, fund your project or anything like that, but just saying, I'm going to do it. And that's kind of what Ashcan is. I mean, even to this day, there's really no huge following. There's really no huge budget or anything like that. It's all about just trying to create the books. And if you enjoy it and if you love it, if you're going to be doing it anyway, why not? And that's really what Ashcan is about right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I love the flash fiction things that I think when I first started reading everything, I kind of tended towards the comic titles first, just because that's what I was into reading. But those Flash Force fiction books are brilliant in terms of watching how quickly people can tell a story around a common prompt. And then, I like that for the same reason that I enjoy Vala, which we'll talk about here in a few seconds, is I like seeing the art either at the beginning or the end of the story, because it can kind of confirm the imagery that you're putting in the brain. And I like that as much as the comic work that's come out. And I've, a bunch of people that are either still working with or kind of, used Ashcan as a stop on their journey. You've got to work with or publish some people who are now making big splashes in indie comics. I mean, Jay, who is got, 3 active titles over with Mad Cave now. You've got, Stoney, who's about to get his first one out. Travis, did he finally defend his dissertation, or is he still writing a bunch of things? Like, you've got people.
Really sure, but real quick, did you read Stoney's work, Villainous?
What? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for all those guys. But I did get a sneak peek of Stoney's, so made me feel kind of special. Got a little look ahead of time. So yeah, I'm happy to work with all those guys.
And I think that's got to be kind of cool, right? That you are finding people who want to write and create something at that time. And I think it's kind of cool that since you're not a firm, publisher with all kinds of massive mandates, and you can kind of go, hey, let's write about a common topic and put out a book. I think that's kind of cool for people to kind of test ideas. And that's even happened on some of the flash fiction that has turned into comics, right? One of Travis is the third most famous space pirate, went from a fiction to something that's a more graphic form.
Yeah, there's several I think that are getting moved beyond the flash fiction. Well, that was really cool. You know, I mean, it was I can't remember who it was compared the flash fiction to like improv, but in a way it was a lot like that. Basically, we would throw out a prompt, and then the writers and the artists would collaborate, figure out an idea, and put it all together, and it all just kind of, you know, circled around a common theme. But yeah, there's several people that have taken those little stories, you know, that are 3 Ashcan pages, which I think is like 850 words, something like that, and have turned them into comic books or going further with them. And that was the cool thing too with Ashcan, and still is true with Ashcan. Everything that we produce, we try to keep creator owned. You know, we're not looking to take ideas and, you know, run with it in a publisher realm. It's just to try and encourage people to create and create a community. Things have changed a lot though with Ashcan. So, you know, right now we're not doing the flash fiction force. We switched gears. It ended up just being a lot of work on especially my part, because I was managing more projects than I was actually creating anything, and I was realizing, wow, I haven't drawn my own stuff for 3-4 months, and it's like, wow, okay, I need to like step back a little bit and start working on some of my own projects. And that was really the driving force by having to change it. I was just spending too many hours trying to keep Ashcan running as a publisher. So it's kind of shifted now where I'm still looking to work with other people. I'm collaborating on multiple projects right now, but I had to switch it up. Had to give more attention to Oath and to Vala and to Truth and the stories that I was creating. And on top of that, you know, like I was saying, as every indie creator knows, you have to give time to your family. You know, I mean, I was getting tired of telling my family, oh, hold on, you know, I gotta respond to this, or oh, I gotta package this up, or, you know, that kind of stuff. It was not cool to do that to my 3-year-old, you know?
Yeah, because you're a one-man industry, right? That if you are driving all of these things on top of being a father, on top of, you know, your daily career when we're back in the swing of the school year, that totally makes sense. Whereas any other publisher, you've got people who are in charge of your editing, your printing, your marketing, your deadlines, and to do that all on top of parenting and worrying about school resuming, like, I don't even know how you function doing all of those things during a regular school year that you had to be running on like 8 seconds of sleep a day and 30 gallons of coffee. I was going to say about
3 to 4 hours of sleep on a regular basis. It was nuts.
All right. So let's talk about some stories. I'm showing my lovely little signed version. I don't know who that. I'm not good at pointing at my camera on this because it's backwards. But I wonder who signed that one. So I asked Stoney when I interviewed him last week a couple of questions about Vala, and his quick response was, this was Nate's idea. He gave me, you know, a lot of the story plots. Like, you generated the outline and were basically like, I think you've got the voice to tell the whole story. So, what was kind of your creative inspiration for something like Vala?
Inspiration. Definitely being a fan of fantasy and Viking kind of folklore. Also, where the story is going to be going is also some environmental connections and such. That was also a big inspiration for me as well. Stoney is awesome to work with, and like I said, with Flash Fiction Force, that's how we connected. And I learned through that he was a fan of Dungeons and Dragons. I've never actually really played Dungeons and Dragons, but I totally get the premise. And all the video games that I've played, you know, somehow are connected with the system that was put together in that. So, anyways, I was like, okay, Stoney is probably the guy I need to talk to about this, because I probably could have sat down and just started writing, but I thought, you know, I really want to work with somebody, and I thought that Stoney would be a good guy to work with. So that was the inspiration with Vala, and I do work with him and give outlines and all that. That's great. but honestly, Stoney's the one filling in all those blanks. You know, that's not
I like how
credit on that, but he puts a lot of work into these, and he's
and
very
also,
patient. He's very patient with me sitting there saying like, "Oh, how about this change? Oh, how about this change? Oh, how about this change?" And Stoney's just like, probably thinking in his head, he's like, "Dude, click, no." But he works with me on all that.
In talking with him about how he worked with the folks on Villainous, like your relationship on Vala definitely sounds like the way he's kind of approaching, working with the team of people on that title, that, he's giving them the outline and the text, and then everybody's just kind of hunkered down and staying in their own lane, and then just offering minor suggestions here or there. So, I'll tell you that he wasn't looking and deleting that. I think the way that you have worked together on this, it was definitely evident in hearing him talk about that title. So he's
a great guy to work with. And I think the guys over at Mad Cave would agree. I mean, if there's someone I could boast about, it would be Stoney and working with him. Face to face, I've only met him one time, but even then, I had a great time interacting with him. So I give a lot of credit to him. And honestly, he has Vala 3 written. He's just waiting on me, the super slow artist, to actually put some pictures with the thing and format the book. But he's on it. So very happy
keeping us, in anticipation. So I want to show some of the art from Vala. So one of the things that I like is, and I know that part of this is production related, but this was really my first book that I picked up that was just straight up black and white. That, I was, you get a color cover and I was like, ooh, nope. But I like, that it is, a finished hand-drawn piece. And when it's not colored, it lets me kind of imagine what the ocean looks like, or the condition of the boat, or those kinds of things, or, the scary, scary Kraken. That I really enjoy, looking at the art that you've got throughout the title. And I think, this changes the way that I want to read short stories, right? That we all get these images in our head of what we think is happening. And then you as the artist can come in and drop an image and help us kind of course correct, which I think is kind of a cool way to make sure that we are enjoying the story in the same way that you kind of intend it to be consumed.
Yeah, also on the note, just kind of talking about that setup, because people have been kind of confused when it says Ashcan Comics Pub and we're doing this, stuff that's written in prose. I don't really know why the two worlds can't exist together, honestly. And the way that's set up with Vala, where it's like a chapter at a time, I think, like, back when I was a kid, I was not a good reader. I was very slow. Mm-hmm. I didn't mind reading, but I just wasn't really good at it, And to pick up a whole book, it was real intimidating to me. Yeah. But I wanted to look at pictures. So there were a few books that I picked up, and I can't recall the names of them, but I would flip through, and if there were pictures in there, that was almost like a checkpoint for me. It was like, okay, I can make it to that point, and then it would inspire me to read a little more. Yeah. So I think that's kind of the setup that I was going for with Vala, but also with our flash fiction stuff, was to incorporate these pictures that would not be intimidating. It's just a chapter at a time, and it's got lots of imagery that's loaded in there too. And also on the art side, to make those single art pages is not as tedious as having to make a full comic. And in the indie world, it could take you months and months to try and get a comic. To do one of these books, you can crank them out a little bit quicker. And again, especially if you're collaborating, then it goes even faster, unless you got a slow artist like me and Stoney's waiting forever.
All right, I gotta ask the question.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What made you the game? I think takes the story to a new level, right? Because it's something that's massively replayable, that it can be augmented for different players. But what made you not just come up with the idea of the game, but then reach out to everybody's inner 90s child that remembers having the pill bottles and lunch boxes full of Pogs.
Well, I think that you just said it. That was my inspiration. Is I remember having those things. You know, I played that when I was in junior high, and it was a very fun thing to do. And I just remember how quick it was.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think of like a mechanic that would work well for games that I hadn't actually seen before. So I was trying to blend just playing Pogs where you're just using the slammer and hitting it, but trying to create like damage that was occurring and different outcomes. But I wanted it to be something that anybody could play. It wasn't like some of the tabletop games that take 2 or 3 hours to play. I wanted it to be real simple. You could play it on your own if you wanted to. You could play it with other people. So that was kind of inspiration with the Pogs. Just I loved them when I was younger, and I wanted to incorporate it into the game. And I wanted to try and keep the Pogs going through every chapter. But Stokey and I were talking about it, and we're like, well, there's not really a monster in this chapter. It's like, okay, so how do we really do this battle element and stuff? So I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to keep integrating it in, but I would like to do other game mechanisms for each chapter. I think that would be cool, too.
Yeah.
And someday, when it's a paperback, I think it'd be cool to continue having some kind of game element, and probably with Pogs. I really liked it.
Well, and I think, too, you nail it, that it's quick and easy to play, right? So instead of having to have a 3-hour D&D session or, play any kind of board game that can take 45 minutes to an hour, if you just wanted to do something quick, and I can do this with my 3 or 4-year-old, they can throw a slammer at something. They're going to enjoy that. They won't understand what they're doing, but I can at least roll the dice and play with them. That I like that it's easily consumable by anybody.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate that.
The other thing that I want to talk about before we talk more about some publication side things is this. I would hold up number 1, but I hopped on the Ashcan bandwagon too late. So I've got 2 and 3, and I know 4 just released. So
wait, you don't have 1?
No.
I'm going to have to solve that problem. I've got 1. I'm going to send 1 to you.
Okay. Because I read one. Yeah, I read one digitally. And I've read them all digitally, but having these, back, it's easy for me to kind of flip into them and kind of, immerse myself. So I know I gave my best Cliff Notes summary in my video on Oath that I'll drop in the description below. But kind of introduce your summary, your Cliff Notes version of Oath, of Miram Galaxy, since that's something that we see kind of branded on 1 or 2 other Ashcan like Flash Fiction works. So tell us about your story, your baby that you are the writer and slow artist on.
Emphasize slow artist. That's gonna everyone takes away from this is, oh, Nate's a slow artist. Okay, that's all I need to know. So this is something I always struggle with, because Oath to me is my baby, and it's like hard for me to put it into one little capsule. The best way I can describe it is probably just put some keywords on it, and I'd say family is a huge element to the story, superhero, and I would say classic good versus evil in a sci-fi or sci-fantasy kind of a realm. So Oath basically controls Rift energy after he comes in contact with a substance called Miram. And Miram is actually a fuel source that is used by other galaxies, but it alters everything around it. Okay. So in this story of Oath, you're going to see Earth come into contact with Miram for the first time. And it's going to rupture different things in the supernatural realm of Earth. Okay. That's where the chapter of Oath comes in. But Miram Galaxy, the first book I wrote, actually happens on a completely different planet. So, yeah, that's my terrible description right there of Oath. But that's the best I could do, I guess.
Well, I think the keywords help, because one of the things that I didn't pick up until I started reading number 3 and then immediately went back and reread 1 and 2 is that there's the thematic focus in each book on one of these lessons of being a hero that I think is pretty cool, right? And was it in book 3 that's where we get the family matters? Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Yep, that your family only makes you stronger. So I think, it's doing a good job exploring a lot of concepts that we see in other superhero, sci-fi, fantasy stories that only happen in like a splash, right? Like we understand the relationship between a hero and their family in a lot of books, but a lot of it is like, I need to protect my family from my identity, from what I do, at night or in the shadows. And this takes a totally different turn in terms of embracing the family as a source of strength, right? Or is it the second one that I called it the Chumbawamba axiom? I get knocked down and I get up again. Or is that the first one?
I'd have to go back and look exactly which one was which, but that is one of them, yeah. And I feel like that's always an important element, is to try and have some kind of I don't know, moral or something to go with the story. In those first few pages where it's like the current time, I always try and put that in there, and then it flips back to the past in the story. So I've kept that theme going. I'm going to keep that going all the way through issue 5. So when those are all put together, it will follow that theme. And I haven't really decided if I'm going to do that in 6 and 7 and beyond. But I think there's a really cool spin that happens in issue 5. And it has to do with the way it starts with current and then flips back to the past. In issue 5, right at the very end, I think people are going to be like, oh crap, that was going right back to, I think people are going to love it. In my mind. So
you're telling me before I open issue 5 to read, I need to make sure that I've got 1 through 4 ready to go for the second read.
I think you would have better understanding if you did do 1 through 4 and then went into 5. But I think if you just read 5, even if you just jump in there, you would see how it comes back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
If I totally fail at that, let me know.
Well, and the other thing, about having a moral or things like that, like this is just good writing 101, right? Where you think about the lesson of being a hero as the topic sentence for each book. We get hooked knowing what kind of the premise or the argument of the issue is. And then there's plenty of time for creativity and figuring out, does he does Oath deliver? Do you as the writer and the artist deliver on bringing that lesson to life? And I think, in each of the 4 books, you've definitely stuck the landing so far.
Thank you.
And so I think that's pretty cool. And you kind of alluded to it a second ago. How many issues do you think Oath will run? Like, do you have an endpoint in your head? Like, I want it to go this many.
This is my little partner right here.
Hey, bud. Mine. Yeah, all 3 of mine are upstairs.
Yeah, and he actually loves reading Oath too. We've read Oath 3 almost every night consistently for quite a while. So that's a big passion for me. And like I said, he's a big inspiration to me.
Did you tell your dad he does a good job?
What's that?
Said, does he tell Dad he did a good job?
Yeah, and he loves to draw, and I'm looking forward to someday seeing if he's making comic books. That's going to be really cool.
No, I can already tell that I've rubbed off on my oldest a little bit, because now that I'm down here in the basement, which is next to their playroom, he wants to come in and do stuff. So we've done like unboxing videos of Funko Pops, and that kind of stuff. And one day he just unprompted or uncoached went into the way that I might like my video intro. And he just stood there and was like, I've ruined his life. He's a little nerd.
Or he made it better. You looked at it either way. What was it you asked me though? How many issues?
How many issues? Yeah.
Okay. I kind of have in my head where the story could end, but I don't really think I'm planning on ending the story. I want to leave it kind of open ended.
Okay.
I would say easily that I'm going to hit 12 issues, but I do think that I could go beyond it. And as long as I'm, patient with it, I think I could just keep doing this for years. I mean,
Nice.
the story has a lot of connection to things I appreciate, so I don't think it's going anywhere. Hey, can you go back downstairs to Mama? Thanks, bud. So I would like to see it just keep going, and
Okay.
that's where I could leave that. But this next few sets of issues are going to start focusing a little bit on one of the supervillains.
All right.
Okay, but he really wants to show you this. Yeah, there you go.
Oh. Oh, here we go. You want to make a deal, little man? Your dad and I have like 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes to talk. You want to do what my son does? You want to go find your 3 favorite toys, and if it's okay with your dad, when you're all done, you can show everybody on my channel your favorite toys.
That sounds like fun. Why don't you go get a few more toys, okay?
I'll be first.
All right, go get them. All right, go get them. All right, sounds good.
I'll get my first one. I will get my octopus.
All right, go get them. All right, I'm doing the best I can here. Sorry, dad duty.
No,
it
happens to me all the time.
Yep.
So I like the idea because the villain is someone we've just kind of seen lurking on the horizon, but we know that the threat is there. So I like knowing that that's coming in the next arc, because I think you've done kind of a brilliant job working out what we need to know about the character, about Miram, about like the dimensional hopping that happens or the time travel element that happens, that I think is really cool. Anything else?
I wanted this origin to be part of like, an exciting part of the story. So,
Yeah.
You're talking about that villain that's kind of lurking on the horizon. You're going to see him in issue 5. You will actually see him. It won't just be some little silhouette out in the distance there. He's actually going to be in it.
Nice. All right. Well, I'll ask you one. Yeah, I'll ask you one more question before we get a toy showcase, since you kind of answered the distribution model question that I had. But what's it like being a small publisher in the era of COVID? Like, has it been easier to try and find new audiences as more and more people were just trying to consume anything they could put their hands on? Like, how has COVID impacted you or Ashcan?
Well, and to be completely honest, Ashcan has never been big enough, I think, to really experience any kind of fluctuation.
Okay.
We've actually dropped quite a few since I've switched away from the print model. People like print, and I totally understand that. And I like print, but it all just boiled down to time. And, sometimes you got to make these tough decisions. And for me, that tough decision was I have to get my priorities back to creating. I have to get my priorities back to my family. And that was just really what it was. So unfortunately, we took a really huge hit with subscriptions. So I'd say that was more of a change than COVID. When COVID hit, there was a lot of speculation about possibly getting more. And, when Marvel and DC started to fluctuate a little bit, Diamond had their whole issue. There was this idea that maybe more people would sign on, but I didn't really see that. And that's all on me. I one-man team publisher. I'm not really the strongest at marketing, doing the best I can. But I think other people have probably seen more success than we have. But like I said back in the beginning, for me, it's not about that. It would be great to have it, but I want to make the books. I want to be writing, and I want to be drawing. And that's really the core value behind Ashcan, is if you want to make it and you just need a place to put it out there, that's what Ashcan is.
Well, and I think worrying about, I remember talking to you as the Kickstarter was going through, and I could still see your energy there for the project, but I could see that you had a lot of irons in the fire, and you were like, oh, I need some time. And I think deciding for, working with family, your creative juices, right? Mental health, any of those things, I think that is the best reason to dial things back. And I think that's something that as I've, been writing on the blog, as I've been building this YouTube channel, anytime people ask me to do something and I'm like, oh, I got to ask the family, the mantra that they all go by is family comes first. And I think it's important that even if you lost some subscribers, the people who hung on, hopefully, ascribe to that mindset that, your family is what makes you stronger on your journey. And, hopefully as, more of these, titles continue to come out, be it Oath or Vala or anything else that you've got on the production calendar, I'll still be pounding the pavement for you and trying to get people to check things out. Because like I said, I love what you do. I believe in what you do. You've given me opportunities and helped me interview people that I never thought I would get just because I awkwardly said, I like your stuff. Can I ask you some questions, please? So
I'm very much in favor of trying to help people out, as much as I can. I think you're the same way. And honestly, I think there's a lot of people in the indie community that have that same mindset. I think a lot of us really want to see success. And I think a lot of us struggle with, only got 2 likes or something like that. It's like, wow, I think this is amazing. You put it up and you get 2 or 3 likes. It's kind of discouraging. But honestly, I think there's a lot of people in the indie world that are very helpful to each other. And that's been my experience. And I really appreciate the support you've given me and those patrons that have stuck with it. So, thank you very much for that. Yeah.
We'll have to see if there's a way that I can gift some subscriptions through Patreon, since I know the two folks who won the bonus stuff from the Vala Kickstarter both enjoyed them. I sent out a couple of extra things to some of my friends that they're looking forward to be able to get in person to play the game. And we've even tried to come up with a cockamamie way to play the game virtually or through like a Zoom, but then we would argue over who gets to throw the slammer because, again, that's our 90s kids fighting with each other. But yeah, I think anything that you do is worth being promoted, because I think, you have found the balance between, creator, head honcho of Ashcan, and father, and, soon to be back in the trenches again, teacher, that I think to know where your limits are at. Yeah. But to find that balance, I think makes it easier to feel like, you're delivering on what you're promising people every month, instead of like, crap, I gotta kill myself getting all of these titles out to not get yelled at by the Twitterverse or anything. Are there any plans for the future in Ashcan outside of Oath and Vala? You have anything new and exciting coming out soon?
We do actually have a new collaboration that came together. I'm working with Jeremiah Sheik, Jacob Gratchik, and Drew Pritchett on a project called Folklore. It's totally new, and what we've done is we've collaborated on this to create a full-length comic, but each of us took 6 pages. So the storyline is consistent in the comic book, but it changes up, the art style throughout, which is really cool.
Yeah.
The thing with indie is, like, a lot of times the character doesn't stick around enough to see how other artists interpret that character. But in this one, you see it in one book, which is really neat. And we kind of came up with character design, all that, to make sure stuff was coherent. But that's coming out very soon. And it was written by a guy named Patrick Tracy. So you'll see that coming up, and I'll make some posts about it. But yeah, we have Folklore, Vala, Oath. Eventually I'm going to get back to Truth. And hopefully I can get some more Dakari pages done too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Are we ready for the toy showcase, or did he disappear downstairs tomorrow?
He has disappeared. I think he's moved on. He's probably still playing with the toys, but he's in a whole other realm now.
All right. Well, I just saw my wife peek in the room, so I think time for us to return back to dad duty to put that hat on has
Yep.
come. But I want to say thanks for. It's been nice to finally get to talk to you since we've DM'd back and forth and tweeted all the time. I'm glad to see that you're feeling like you're in the best place to be to kind of not just continuing to publish stuff that other people want are working on, but also to keep your art out here as well, or your stories and things like Oath. That I really really like them, and I still love the pitch that you gave on the comic book club interview as to why people should check you out. It's only $3, and they can read everything that you have for $3. That's the cost of one book, and you can get dozens of titles, comics or fiction, to enjoy.
Yeah, give it a shot. If you don't like it, then you just cancel it and already let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I can't figure out how to do a gift through Patreon, then I think I'll work on something with you where I can give you some money to give away 2 or 3 accounts to maybe people for a month who leave some comments in the description.
Yeah, we could definitely talk. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll figure
So
something out.
I'll say I'll make good on that promise. I'll try and figure it out technologically to not make Nate's life a living hell, because I think the more people who read and enjoy the art and the stories from any of the titles on there, I think we can convert more people to disciples of Ashcan.
Thank you.
But,
hey, real quick before we go.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping all the indie guys. It means a lot to people.
They are the stories that I just gravitate to and love more, right? I'm guilty of, we talk about the childhood reach out of the Marvel and the DC, right? Because Image and those other publishers didn't exist where I could buy things unless it was Spawn when, Rogue Image came out. But I think indie publishers from top to bottom are telling more intuitive stories, more relatable stories, right? I can't, know what it's like to have some kind of power that lets me travel through stuff, but I can relate to the lessons as a man in those stories. Or, who was the other person that I did a lot of talking to? Ronald Cromartie's Born Again.
Yeah. When
I finally read that, I started DMing him and I was like, are you fucking with me in terms of the juxtaposition you've got in some of the art? And I think it's, you all know what you want to do. The kind of audience that will read your stuff. So you're going to shoot your shot. So as much as, I enjoy creating my YouTube content for the however many people watch it, as long as I enjoy what I'm doing and someone stumbles onto it and likes it from time to time, that's what I enjoy. And I like working with indie creators as well, because I think you all are much more willing to kind of talk about anything, right? To defend your work, to share your work with people. And, I think with the beating that DC and Marvel are taking after the hiccups of production shut down and DC doing its own wild production stuff that's not going well and Marvel dropping titles, indies, I think, are poised to make a bigger impact in the marketplace than they are right now. That instead of talking about the big two and maybe Image, there are so many people through so many publishers that are finding their voice. And I think that becomes the future of comics, that from places like Ashcan, Mad Cave Scout, places that are lower on people's radar because they don't get distributed everywhere. I think this is the next wave of the kinds of stories that we're going to read and enjoy. You want to come in, big girl? Come here. You want to say hi to Mr. Nate? Okay.
Hey.
That's look like Michaela.
Can you say hi?
That's look like Michaela.
Does that look like Michaela's dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you say hi to Mr. Nate?
Hello.
Could you get your finger off me here?
Okay. All right. But yeah, it's the way that I talk about every indie creator's work, I hope feels like the same work of labor of love that you all put into it, because if I didn't feel anything from it, then I would not be as excited to talk about all of it as I am.
Yeah.
Daddy, we want to spin.
What we can spend when we're all done talking to Mr. Nate, okay?
All
right. So I think it's time to go back to Dad, but I appreciate the interview when the next chapter of Mommy's upstairs, I think.
Okay.
When the next chapter of Vala comes out, or more importantly, we finally get to see the villain in Oath, chapter 5, then maybe we'll do a quick drop in. He can hear you. You can't hear him because I tried to give you the headphone.
Yeah.
But I'll dial you in again to maybe update people on some of the choices of why you did what you did. But it was a joy to get to talk to you. I hope to keep getting to chat with you again in the future.
Hi.
Daddy needs some help. Can you hear me?
Well, he's got to go help his little boy. So can you tell Mr. Nate bye?
Bye.
Bye.
Daddy.
Hey, thanks so much, Dustin.